Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. And today I've got with us Alex Ghiculescu. Alex is one of the co-founders of Tanda, a Brisbane-based workforce management company that specialises in managing rosters, payroll and HR for hourly rate workers. Alex, thank you so much for joining us.
G'day. Good to see you again.
Likewise. Hopefully I got that intro okay. Is that a fair summary of you and what you do?
It was good, and it was unrehearsed. At least unrehearsed in front of me.
I've not done that one before, so that's good.
Yeah, you nailed the surname, which is rare.
Randomly, I was a fencer, had a bunch of Romanian friends. So
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, very random.
Did you stick it?
Sorry?
Were you better than them? Because they're meant to be good at fencing.
I was better than some and lots worse than others.
Yeah, so good.
Mate, thank you for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about Tanda, other than my very short intro, and how you guys got started?
Yeah, so at Tanda, as you said, we do workforce management, leave, and HR for places that people get paid by the hour. So the one sentence summary is we help to make it easier to employ people in Australia with confidence.
Yep.
As we know, if you're in retail, like quick service, hospitality, other frontline industries, childcare, medical centres, a wide range, but the sort of thing they have in common is they're dealing with this award system. And it's a very, very complicated set of laws, constantly changing, not all of them are defined very well. And that's sort of backed up by a very litigious Fair Work Ombudsman, and a government that doesn't really like small businesses to exist. So we try to combat all that. We try to make it practical for people to employ people, particularly in work that's not necessarily like, there's lots of people who make it easier to get a job if you've got a degree, but there's lots of parts of the economy that are doing not that sort of work. We started ironically now I said that, we started out of university in 2012. As myself and three mates, we're running a bar and we needed a rostering system. We're under a very complicated award. We're actually under a very complicated enterprise agreement that was an offshoot of the hospitality award.
Mm-hmm.
And we needed a system that could interpret that award, and we sort of also needed to drive profitability. This bar was not very profitable. A lot of that came down to poor rostering practices, people just being rostered, not coming to work, people being rostered in weird ways over time, that sort of thing. So we built the system out of our own need. And we, I think, had the wise insight for university students anyway, that there's probably lots of bars in Australia that have similar problems. And we kind of learned a lot about the award system through that and realized that in fact they all have the same problem by law. There's a lot of it's a crowded space. There's lots of companies doing rostering software and so on, but we found a really strong niche in being Australian, being privately owned, not being backed by some US conglomerate, keeping our focus on the market here and on the problems that are unique to this country, which there are heaps. And trying to serve our customers well that way. So we're running, this is our 13th year.
Yeah, wow. Congrats. That in itself is a massive achievement for, as you say, a privately held SaaS company founded at university. So
my hairline was a bit further down.
I've managed to keep most of mine so far. It probably means I'm not doing it well enough.
Yeah, you're looking good.
So mate, privately held, so bootstrapped, or did you take any investment?
Yeah, so we were 21 in Brisbane in 2010s, and so no one would give us money, which is a blessing now, but at the time was kind of stressful.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've just kind of built the business off its own back over the last 13 years and grown it to, I guess now it's a reasonable size. But yeah, all just off our own $1 that we each put in on day one.
Awesome. Amazing to do that. And roughly how big's the team now?
It's about 80 people in Brisbane,
mm-hmm.
and about 70 between London and Chicago, and a few in other parts of the world. But that's kind of the main gist of it.
Awesome.
About 150 globally.
That's awesome.
We found it's kind of a good sweet spot. We're trying to not grow. We don't want to have exponentially more than that, I would say.
We're going to talk about that today as well, which is a fantastic segue into what the rest of this chat is about, which is Alex's guiding principles for running a SaaS company. So you are a co-founder of obviously an extremely high-performing SaaS company. why do you think that SaaS companies in particular need to be run by a set of principles? What is it that you think is different or requires this specifically for SaaS companies?
Well, I mean, everything in life is boiled down to principles, and depending how abstract you want to be. If you go to business school, which some of us had the misfortune of doing, you're gonna learn some set of like you're gonna implicitly, if not explicitly, learn some guiding principles about how you should operate a company. Most of them are pretty bad, but so I think if you're making decisions without any sort of guiding consistency to them or guiding philosophy underpinning them, then they're going to be pretty sporadic and random, and maybe they'll hit, but it's not going to improve your chances of success.
Yep.
So given that, the principles I think we're going to talk about, I wouldn't say these are necessarily, like, some of these are things we've kind of observed 10 years ago and kept doing, and some of them are things we've only articulated recently. But we were talking about this not that long ago in the context of another company that I'm working with that's kind of has been around for a fairly long time, is in SaaS, but is in a bit of it's not in a bad state, but just I think could do with a little bit of a refocusing.
Yep.
That's where we're helping.
Yeah.
And these came out of conversations there and sort of about thinking about that problem and trying to distill so many experiences into like a small number of common elements and things that probably are universally true for businesses in this space.
Yeah. So you've come up from this with your own 13 years in SaaS by yourself, and now you're doing a little bit of consulting work and external work helping other people as well. So
yeah. I wouldn't like to use the C word, but I guess.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Advise. I don't know. What?
Just helping out.
Helping. Sorry, hate the C word. Hey, I was a C word. I was a Tanda consultant. Remember? So
that's okay. That's permitted. We love our implementation partners.
Oh god. So let's dive into your principles, and I love the first one. And you've sent them to me in advance, so I do have these. Everyone should write code or speak to customers every day. Firstly, I love it, but talk me through it from your point of view.
So I should caveat that with we're at about 150 people now, and so this doesn't apply to us anymore. We have like a finance and internal audit and accounting team. Mm-hmm. They don't really talk to customers. Some of them, I guess, do like Excel stuff, but it's not writing code in the meaning of the term.
Yep.
We have a small marketing team who don't, except when they're doing case studies, but don't like day-to-day live by this. And there's a few other people in internal operations and stuff like that. But as a general rule, I would say we do live by this. Yep. And certainly before you get to 75 people, maybe, I'm not sure, around about there, I think it's a pretty good rule of thumb. So I've seen lots of companies that have a huge number of roles that sound good on paper, people tell you they're important, are prevalent at much bigger companies and so on. And you kind of convince yourself like, oh, we want to be like Atlassian one day. Like, they're the kings of SaaS. Well, what do they have? Well, they have all these people doing things that sound really important and that look good at conferences. But I think one of the things that we figured out really early that's been very helpful for us is realizing that for a very long time, the only roles that actually push the needle and get you to where you want to end up are roles that talk to customers or that write code. And everything else is kind of a nice to have that you can probably push down the line, or you can make a sub responsibility, or whatever else it happens to be. Yeah. So I think it's just whether or not you take it literally. Obviously, eventually, we don't take it literally anymore. But I think it is a good question with which to challenge yourself on the criticalness of any specific task that you're doing, and certainly of any specific role that you're hiring for.
Yeah, look, I love it.
Well, it must be so tempting all the time just to create new roles, thinking they're a silver bullet for the current problem that you have.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not. Maybe only we have that.
No, we all have that. It's a lot of it's for stuff that we don't want to do. But then you look at it and you go, a SaaS company is a business that builds software for customers. And so, and you got to try and do that profitably, right? So I completely agree, particularly earlier on. Yeah, I mean, if you get to the thousands upon thousands of employees that Atlassian has, obviously it doesn't hold, and it doesn't hold for you guys at 150. But look at most startup SaaS companies in Australia. A lot of them are 5 staff, 10 staff, 12 staff, 1 staff, let alone 30 staff.
Right?
100%, we all are, unless we get 10 million funding from day one. Not a real thing.
And we're there.
Yeah, exactly. But then, where do you actually see value? And like talking to customers can be sales, it can be support, it can be customer success, it can be onboarding. It's not just
totally. It's not just sales.
Yeah.
But the key bit is the key bit's the everyday bit.
Yeah.
It's easy to square around. It's like, oh, this person, like this product manager does a customer interview every week, or like this finance person also does accounts receivable, so they call up bad debtors, which is not the best kind of talking to customers.
No.
So like I think the everyday bit's the key bit, and how like what sort of roles that narrows your company's focus to. I think that narrowing the focus is very good.
Yeah, and so does that, I mean, for you, does that just basically tighten the loop between product development, customer success, sales, onboarding, and feedback? Is that really the main point of it, is to bring basically product and customers as close together as humanly possible?
Yeah, so basically. And I think for the longest time, my half of the business, I guess, is the product side. I don't run go-to-market.
Yep.
So speaking more in my world, for the longest time, like we didn't have product managers as a role.
Yep.
Years before we brought one in. So who made the product decisions? Well, it was the people writing the code or the people talking to customers. And in practice, it was just over lunch.
Yep.
For a long time, we had designers, not many, but a few, but like no one was doing designs just in Figma. Like you would design it and then you'd go build it yourself, implement it yourself, and you get someone to help you wire it up. So like everyone was very, very hands-on with whatever they were doing. And I think that was really important because, well, obviously it meant we could move very quickly, but also it kept everyone very, very close to the problem, very close to the customer problem. And it's just like inevitable that as soon as you get roles that aren't doing one of these two things, you're inevitably going to get bureaucracy. We had no middle managers. Well, it's very hard to have bureaucracy if you don't have managers to do the bureaucrating. Like, who's going to do it? So I think it's good to fight against all these impulses. Yeah. And that is to say that we've got really good product managers now. Some of them don't write code every day, but you'd be surprised. Particularly with AI now, I'm kind of forcing them to all write code again.
Nice.
Designers, all the designers still write code. So we've still actually stayed quite close to this. But it's not as maybe militant as it used to be.
Yeah, but I love it, and you can't be militant on it. Like you say, when you get to a point that these things aren't happening in a silo, where you've got accounts receivable, where you have HR, where you have stuff that you need to do just to keep the business running. They're an overhead cost. But I love the fact that you've got basically our business is coding and customers. Yeah. Let's hire people that do those things.
If I could argue if I could play devil's advocate again, the counter argument to all this and what people do wrong, to disprove my own suggestion, is people take this too literally, and then you end up in a situation where the founder does all the HR, all the recruitment, all the finance, all the bookkeeping, blah, blah, blah. And the founder, if it's anyone like me, is going to be like, hey, not enjoy those things, be really bad at them.
I hate them.
Yeah, right. And like what it should be is like this founder should just be doing product all day, and they should just have someone else doing these things, or whatever it happens to be. That's their strong point.
Yeah. So, but that doesn't mean don't get other people to do it. It just means don't hire FTEs, right? You can hire an external accountant or an external HR.
Some of these things, yeah. And it depends. Again, it depends on where you are in the journey and how big you are, and so forth. But I think it's like if you take these things too literally, and then you're like, I don't want someone to come back to me and be like, bro, we have 200 staff and still everyone writes code or talks to customers every day because I do everything else myself. Like that's not something to be proud of.
Yeah, fair.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, so take every lesson as it's intended, not to the end.
Yeah, totally. And I think you're right. Like, maybe that means external bookkeepers or something. I would probably not depend on external recruiters, for example, but maybe that means like forcing everyone to learn to do recruitment within their area rather than having it be a centralized function.
Yeah,
that works really well up to a certain scale. All these things change as you grow.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Growing pains, I think they call it.
Indeed.
Awesome. So one of the things you touched on there is if you don't have people who don't just code and talk to customers, then you end up having bureaucrats. And I think that kind of falls into your second point. Extra headcount slows software business down. You should shrink teams to grow faster, not to cut costs.
Yeah. So profitability is cool these days, right?
Thankfully, finally.
It's a nice change. 10 years ago, not so much.
Yeah.
But there's kind of like, when profitability is in vogue, it's very, like, everyone's like, let's cut costs. And, in a software company, the main expense is labor. So, but I think that thinking about cost cutting when you're looking at labor is kind of missing the point a little bit. Particularly trying to get to profitability. Something that is like, so when you look at labor within a business, I think there's kind of like two different things it can be doing. I think that there's some cases where like an input of labor leads to an output of dollars or sales or customers support tickets responded to, whatever, where you can sort of describe some sort of linear relationship. Like if we, in software terms, if we had more salespeople, they could call more people, and so we'd get more leads and the funnel is bigger. And then I think that, and so it's kind of makes sense, like, okay, you want to go faster, maybe we should hire more salespeople. Or if we had more support people, we could answer more tickets more quickly or whatever. I'm not disputing that.
Yep.
However, it's easier to apply the same sort of thinking to roles that, for lack of a better definition, for roles that create intellectual property. So it's easy to be like, well, if we had more developers, we'd ship more code, we'd ship more features. Well, maybe, but what actually it's just as likely you'll ship less.
Yeah.
The linear correlation between the two totally goes out the window.
Yeah.
And then that's
it's a mythical man-month thing, right?
Yeah. And with like, there's books about this in the software engineering world. For those who aren't in it, the mythical man-month is kind of defines this whole problem. I actually think amongst software developers, it's more linear than in other areas. So like, if we said that like for salespeople, you add a salesperson and there's like a predictable marginal improvement in sales and it's kind of linear with each additional one, say.
Yep.
Maybe with developers, like each developer you add maybe adds like half the amount of marginal productivity. Once you get to like designers or product managers or people who don't code, it's like it's exponentially worse.
Yeah.
Or once you add managers, for example, because it's not just that like you create more meetings and more communication lines and more things for people to agree on before they can do something, but you're now introducing people whose job is to do things other than produce the final output.
Yeah.
And again, this doesn't mean you should never have these roles, but you should be very, very cautious about having too many of them. And really, like, I don't know, I think I probably frustrate people internally with how few of them, how much I push back on these roles existing more than they need to.
Oh, I'm with you.
So yeah, I think like understanding which kinds of job in the organization you can just keep doing and doing and doing more of versus which ones like you're going to get the most output out of as few people as possible. Like everyone knows this in theory. Like if you got 20 of your mates together and tried to pick a bar versus if you just picked the place and told everyone where you're going, like you know that it's easier to make a decision when one person's making it versus 20.
Yeah.
But maybe if it was just you'd pick somewhere shit. So there's probably a sweet spot between not you, but
I'd pick somewhere terrible. I don't go out. I don't think I go out for as bloody work events.
Maybe you don't care. But like obviously there's like a sweet spot where of a small number that can come to a good consensus versus a big group that comes to a bad consensus.
Yeah.
The same is true in anything.
Governance by committee is terrible in most instances, depending on size and composition of committee. Yeah, look, the throwing developers at it, it's quite a few years ago now, but I was speaking to another founder at a trade show who had signed a deal to sell a giant chunk of his company. And I said, how are you feeling about it? And I won't name names either of the acquirer or of the company. So he said to me, yeah, pretty overwhelmed. The first thing they want me to do is hire 100 developers. I'm like, that seems like an arbitrary number. Why? And he's like, to go faster. I'm like, you've built this whole product. That's amazing with like you and 2 others. What are you going to do with 100? And it was just literally like one of the terms of the acquisition. I'm like, that seems nuts. And I've seen it a couple of times, not just in Australia, but in New Zealand and things like that. When somebody gets funded, they put a room there and they go, look at all my developers. And I'm like, your roadmap hasn't changed from when you had 4. So I completely agree with you that it doesn't.
I hope that guy got an all cash deal, or plenty of cash up front at least.
He did all right. He did all right in the end.
Yeah,
he did all right in the end. Yeah,
yeah, but like obviously the inverse is like, again, I'm not suggesting that the correct number of developers in an organization is 2 or whatever it is. Like you can obviously you can grow it quickly, and some companies have done a very good job of that. I just think that people convince themselves that it is a requirement to add headcount to grow faster. And I would say, like what we've seen, all else being equal, you're more likely to grow faster with less than with more.
Yep.
And that's because to have more, you need more process and more expertise in management and so on. All these things that you can get good at, and if you do, it will accelerate. But they don't come naturally. They don't come out of the box.
No, and if you hire just more, you will statistically regress to the mean anyway. So
yeah, and like again, all else being equal, if you get good at management, you can push against that. But it's more work.
Yeah,
like, it's another thing to think about, which is fine. You can get people who are good at that.
But then that's another role.
I see a lot of companies where people just expect that you can, like what you said, like you just whack some more bodies into the box and the code will just spit out. It's not quite like that.
Yeah, no. Apparently it's a skill. Do you have an idea or personal opinion on what is the right size for a functional team or group to keep it efficient? Not in total headcount, but in terms of team size.
I think it probably depends a lot on the personalities of everyone involved, but I think it must be around 4 or 5.
Yeah, that's my gut.
I think. But I think there's going to be different schools of thought on this, and I'm not actually sure I'm confident about the answer. But I have a feeling that it matters more that there's one good leader.
Yeah, I believe that.
Like, I think I see examples of like, that you can have 2 equally competent groups and of people who are really good at what they do and so on, and then one group is totally wayward and one group is hyper focused and effective. And I have a feeling that it's just like that whoever's job it is to lead that team, which might be a very low touch set of responsibilities in practice, really makes a difference in how cohesively it operates, more so than the exact number.
Yeah, fair.
But then again, like any one person shouldn't manage double digits ideally of people.
No, that's too hard. Yeah, I used to do that in an old role. I had 43 and it was like
43 is clearly too many.
Hey, painful. I don't think I've ever been less unhappy, and I was on the verge of bankruptcy before that. So
and that's this my context is in roles that are like writing code.
Yeah,
it's probably different in different areas.
Yeah, of course. Your third, sorry, you go.
Yeah,
I was going to get onto your third principle because we otherwise we can talk about this for way too long. Principle number 3, and it seems like the most obvious one, but SaaS businesses can be simple to operate, fast growing and profitable. Don't reinvent the playbook. Save the innovation for your product. Firstly, I think that's amazing. Yeah, I know everyone wants a simple, fast-growing, and profitable SaaS business, right? But what do you mean by not reinventing the playbook? Let's talk about that one.
Let's talk about it. We can start by metaphor. I think this is not unique to SaaS. I think in most industries, that you can look at an example of someone who's done the thing you're doing very successfully, and if you can figure out the bits that they did well that you can copy, you should probably copy them. I think figuring out who actually is doing exactly the same things as you can sometimes be tricky, and sometimes you can be incorrect about that. But you can work that out. Like it's a rare entrepreneur that comes along and successfully reinvents everything about a business. I think coming up with a good product that doesn't already exist, that does something people want, is hard enough. And then, like, it's basically what I'm trying to say here is if you also whack on, well, we're going to do HR fundamentally different to everyone else. We're going to reinvent how we do customer support. We're going to have a unique approach to sales. We're going to, like, all these things, like, you don't need to invent so much stuff. I think you can just, if we're talking specifically about software as a service, like, pick out of Atlassian or Intercom or Salesforce or whoever you want to most be like. We literally did this. Initially we looked at Xero a lot, then we looked at Intercom a lot. These days we look at Atlassian a little bit, but only in some very specific areas. We look at HubSpot a bit. We look at Intercom a lot still. Pick the thing that they do, and like I think at least you have to have a very good justification for doing something fundamentally different. Now you need to water it down to scale. Obviously, like they're bigger than we are, so you can like,
hire 10,000 salespeople.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so maybe don't hire 10,000 off the bat. Yeah. But if you're looking at a company that you want to be like, and they have a really good sales team, and you're trying to sell a similar product at a similar price point to similar kinds of customers, product-led, with no sales team, well, I think you should have a good explanation for why you're doing it differently. And maybe there's a really good reason, there's a good insight about the customers, whatever. But just doing it because you don't like sales and think it's grimy is not a good reason.
No, it's a good.
That's by far the most common example that you see.
Yeah,
is that one there? But you see it everywhere. Like,
and I think it's very common in Australia and New Zealand. There's we're almost a very anti-sales culture. Even in startup land, that a lot of people want to be product led because sales is very confrontational, and it's one of the things I do not do outbound sales well myself. I do inbound sales pretty well because I'm a technical expert, not because I'm a good sales guy. And I think a lot of founders struggle with that, and I think we all need to, frankly, take a concrete pill and hit the phones a lot more than we do. And I've heard you say it before: is pick a book, any book. And run what that book says. And if you've got a structured, repeatable process, I think that's probably the guiding principle to follow there. And as you say, don't try and reinvent the thing.
Yeah, and I think that leads into the second part. Like, I think the SaaS business model is a solved problem. I think lots of business models are solved problems, to be perfectly honest. And the challenge is, that doesn't to say executing isn't hard, and there aren't many challenges along the way.
Yeah,
but like, it seems to me like you shouldn't be trying. Like, it's rare that you want to invent a new business model just so you can get a product to market, I guess. And SaaS businesses should be simple to operate. The whole premise of them is that I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying it quite like this, but it's not that the customer is always right; it's that the software is always right.
Yeah,
and you have thousands of instances of the same software, and everyone is happy with it.
Yeah.
Well, they have to be simple to operate by definition. But it also leads to them being very cash accretive and very, very profitable if they're operated correctly.
Yeah.
So it's a solved problem. It's repeatable. It can be done.
Yeah.
But like, the best way to get there is not by inventing new, unique, novel ways at a process and strategy of doing those things. It's by figuring out what has been done that works and doing it and executing it well.
Yeah, I think your point there about there's thousands of instances of the software being right. That really is get product market fit. Really, that tells you that what you've got, and then sell it as many times as you can.
Yeah, it's really that's all it is. That's all.
Yeah. That's all it is. And we've solved SaaS for everyone. And
then support it well.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example of this. So, like, Xero notoriously doesn't have a phone number. You can't call them.
Yeah.
You can only email them, and if God is kind, they'll email you back.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to be causing problems for them. But like, but the reason for that is because they have how many thousand subscribers, hundreds of thousands of them, and each paying like $100 a month, if that. Like, they would have to have an enormous call center to deal with all the incoming phone calls. And it's the most obvious problem. But there's actually way more insidious issues with phone support. People would call Xero if they offered phone support, not while they're in front of their computer. They just call from their car and be like, "Hey, can you fix my Xero?" And the poor person on the end of the phone will be like, "Okay, well, go click on this." "Oh, I know the computer. All right, well, I guess I can't really help you fix your Xero." like it's way more efficient to offer support over email, and it's better for the customer because they interact with it when they're actually able to do the thing in front of the software.
Yeah, 100%.
So there's a lot of actual but if you just were well, we care about customers more than Xero, so we're going to offer phone support. Not only are you going to set yourself up for a lifetime of pain and expense, but also you're going to support them worse. So don't again.
I'll challenge you because we offer huge amounts of phone support, but we charge enough to do it because our average revenue per unit is significantly higher than that of Xero, and our customer base is exactly like that. But it really comes down to that profitability, right? And then the customer stickiness based on that CAC and lifetime value kind of thing. But yeah, so Xero can't afford to do it at $100 a month. Stat from about 10 years ago now, when I first started in SaaS, was that it costs about $70 to answer a phone call. So if it costs you $70 to answer a support call, and you're on a $100 a month plan or an $80 a month plan or a $60 a month plan, you're losing money really quickly. Yeah, so you can't do it. Our average plan is significantly larger than that. So we do it, and our customers are all fabrication, construction, engineering clients. So they want that phone support. And that's a differentiator for us. But we don't need to put 20 people on a sales team or a customer support team who support that, because once we get them up and running, then it makes life significantly easier. So I won't always agree that you shouldn't have a phone number, but it depends on the cost of your product too.
Yeah, totally. That's what I mean. You should pick a company that you want to end up like and figure out the bits of the things that they've done well and copy those. And that's the point with that example is it's easy to say copy the things that a company's done well, but when some things are so obvious that you should do. Some things are a bit more there's actually legitimate schools of thought either way. Yeah. You can't even pick one. And what you probably shouldn't do is try to come up with the first principles, invent something from scratch just because it sounds good approach to things.
Yeah, none of us are the PayPal mafia, right?
Well, maybe not. Who knows?
Maybe you are.
Trying, but I think they probably didn't invent everything from scratch either.
No, I don't think.
I suspect most of the innovation was in the product.
Yeah, and I think your advice there is very sound, that you're probably the first person doing one part of your journey enough in the product. Yeah. Copy as much of everything else as you can.
Totally.
So we're nearly at the end of our little session today, and thank you. It's been awesome. I've got 3 questions to wrap up with, and I always enjoy these ones. What is the biggest misconception first-time founders have about starting a SaaS company?
Oh man, it pains me that I have an answer. It's the correct answer. I hate it because it's you see people post this on LinkedIn all the time, and they're always thought leaders type people. And it's the same shit around first time founders say it's all about product. Second time founders say it's all about distribution. And people who say it are 0-time founders generally. Yep. But unfortunately they are correct. I think that is true. I think that it is very, very easy. And you see all the time, I want to build this thing because I know it'll be good for me or I think it'll be good for someone, but I have no interest in doing any work to get it out there. Yep. And you don't see that misconception as much the second time around. Basically ever. So
if you build it, they will not come.
No. And I hate having to give the answer because I hate giving credit to the thought leaders on LinkedIn. But fortunately, this one is in fact true.
It is in fact true. You do have to sell your product, even though it is sometimes the hardest bit. Thank you for that one.
Oh, actually, I'll give one more that's
go.
I think that 15-ish years, I don't know how exactly it went. You've seen the movie The Social Network?
I have.
Yeah. It was the hottest shit amongst probably both of our generations when it came out. And I think a large number of people watched it and then just thought, man, software is like a get-rich-quick scheme.
Yeah.
Obviously, Facebook wasn't SaaS. But I think that there is a pretty big misconception that software is a get-rich-quick scheme in the short term. In quick, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that people underestimate, and I think this probably applies to all businesses, not just these types, how long it takes to be successful if you're not in the 0.1 percentile. And I don't think that being there is entirely luck, but like you can be objective about if your business model is likely to be one that is a massive breakout. And SaaS is almost never that by nature. No. So like it's just not possible. Yeah. So you just need to accept that it'll take a long time. And I think people don't realize that or don't want to know that going in. And
that's for everyone else, not for me. I think we've got an amazing product.
When you hear all these things about like the majority of startups fall apart from founder disputes and all that sort of stuff, my analysis of it is that my guess is that there was just like disagreements or misconceptions about how long it would take to be successful, how that's defined.
How long can you live on Vegemite toast?
Yeah, or whatever it happens. Or even like if you raise money, it's not even that. It's more like how long can you live without your ego being stoked? Whatever happens to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I think if people don't have this agreement ahead of time that it's going to take a decade, then it's going to be hard once you're a few years in to be like, we should keep going.
Yeah, 10 years is short, right?
Yeah. That's my answer.
Nice. Oh, I'll take them both. What's the biggest mistake you've made on your journey?
Where to begin? It depends on how you define mistake. I think if you're looking at it from like a purely if you're looking at it from a financial sense, what had the biggest negative impact on the company valuation, say, it was probably the way that we did our overseas expansion. Like we tried to push too hard into too many different countries all at once without strong enough strategy or probably without enough capital either to really do it well. And we flailed for quite a while before we started to hit our stride. But I moved overseas and then we had a kid there. And that was like, so, and we met, we got a lot out of it in different ways and we sort of learned a lot. And was it a mistake? I don't know. It depends on the lens that you look at it at. So I don't know. Like I struggle to think of anything that I could say, like anything of substance that I could say like that was categorically and in every way a complete mistake.
Cool. That's awesome.
And everything you do, like you thought was a good idea at the time, hopefully. So why beat yourself up so much?
Yeah, it's hard enough as it is. But I always like to help people.
That isn't to say that people will be like, oh, I want to do this thing, and I'll be like, nah, that is not going to work.
Do not do that.
Yeah, but most of these things don't kill you. So if they don't listen, whatever, they'll figure it out.
Most of them. It's the most that's the scary bit.
Yeah. I think it's more like that. Well, yeah, and that's where it comes back to having, I guess, good guiding principles, and just if you treat your customers and your employees fine, then everything else will kind of work out over the long term.
Yeah, agreed.
Don't do anything too silly.
That segues in nicely to my last question. It is, what is the one piece of advice you feel strongly enough to give every founder?
Beyond everything else I've said?
Yeah. The one piece that you think is applicable to everyone.
Honestly, I think it would be that you should have your shit in order at home.
Yeah.
Like being successful or owning a business or whatever, it's not going to make your wife love you more or anything like that. So that's, I wouldn't say go out and practically tell everyone this, but in terms of something everyone wants to know, like this is not nothing that we're doing. Like writing software is more important than having your family good.
Yeah,
I feel like a better phrase. I think that's probably pretty universal.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. And if your family's not good, you're not going to be good at work. And
there's probably exceptions to that, but in general,
yeah, psychopathic exceptions to that.
Yes, definitely.
But yeah, no, 100%, completely agree.
But I think it is like, and I wouldn't say I'm really speaking too much in personal experience. I'm trying very hard not to, but it is easy to lose sight of that in the thick of it. You should try not to.
Very much so. Well, mate, on that very wholesome note, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah,
Really appreciate it. Hopefully everyone watching got a bunch out of this and really appreciate having you on.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Thanks, Alex.